Hello and welcome to part 17 of the Jeep tutorial series. This one will most likely be the last one. I know that I said that in part 16, but pretty sure this one's going to be the last one. Now, just what I would like to do in this one is just kind of make our scene a little fancier, a little more interesting by adding some muddy tire tracks in behind our Jeep here. It's like he's in this nice clean environment. Also, by the way, I rendered him on a darker background. You can see that the ground shadows, you don't see all the graininess that was in there on the white plane, the white ground, so the darkness helps separate that. Also, it brings your image, your object a little, kind of gives it more focus because it's the brightest object in the scene now instead of the darkest. So anyways, so he's sitting here on this clean floor, but his tires are all muddy and everything, so he most likely would have made some muddy tracks coming in off of the mud path or mud dirt road or mud road or gravel road or whatever, muddy field something. Anyways, let's go ahead and see if we can't put some muddy tracks in there. Now, I'm going to come back into solid view so I can work a little bit better, a little easier. Also, I'm going to hide this ground plane just to get it out of the way. And tell you what, let me turn my screencast keys on. There we go. Oh, by the way, not sure if I mentioned this already, but in Blender 2.7.2, the screencast keys are not included in the add-ins folder by default. So if you want to use those for some, if you're recording tutorials yourself, you'll probably want to go ahead and go into your older Blender folder and go ahead and copy that Python file into the 2.7.2 folder. Anyways, so I want to go ahead and make a tire track, just a single tread pattern. So I'm just going to put my 3D cursor right here, Shift-A. I'm going to add a plane, tab into edit mode, scale it down, and I'm going to W subdivide, and let's give it 2 subdivisions so I can cut off the corners here and here and here. Delete those, and we're just going to have a basic plus sign, kind of like you can see here on the tread. But I'm going to make it a little smaller vertically, and also I'm going to grab the corners here, scale those in like this so it kind of rounds out a little bit. And then that's good to go. Now we're going to add an array modifier. So we'll go to our modifiers tab here and add an array. And since my window's so small here, it kind of collapsed those, so I got to scroll up to the array. There we go. And I don't want it to be on the x-axis, so I'm going to zero off that one, x, y, z, and I'm going to put it on the y-axis, so I want it to repeat 100% on the y-axis. So we're not going to mess with the count type just yet, because we're going to use a curve to control not only the amount of treads that we see, but also the direction that they're going to be laying on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and Shift-A, and we're going to add a curve, and it's going to be a Bezier curve. And we'll tab into edit mode, and you can see the little arrows pointing the direction that it's going. So I'm going to put this end right here. Let's go ahead and put it down here under the tire, just so we can go ahead and get it started, right there under the middle of the tire, where it's touching the ground. So we'll grab the back end and rotate that around, maybe scale it up a little bit. So he's coming in from off the screen, way over here, and maybe this guy drives, curves in, turns in, and then drives straight for a little bit. Okay, so that's that track. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this track tire track, and we'll say front left for the front left side, the driver's side. Doesn't really matter exactly, it's not real important that you name it that, but that's only just for our visual assistance. So now I can grab the tire treads that we made, and under fit type, instead of fixed count, I'm going to say fit curve, and then I'll have to choose the curve. We'll say tire track front left, and there we go. Now you'll notice it's still a straight line. It's not following that curve, but what the curve is controlling right now is the length of the tire track. So if we were to make it a little longer, you can see it adds more to it. If we make it shorter, it makes it shorter, so on and so forth. So right now it's only controlling the length, but I also want it to control the direction that it goes as well. So I'm going to grab that tire track. We're going to add another modifier, and this one's going to be curve. Okay, I'll go ahead and collapse that array, and the object we want it to attract to is going to be the same thing, the tire track front left. And you can see that X kind of funny here. It's not really going the way we want, so we have to say the deformation axis we want it to be on the Y. Now it follows the track, but it turns it sideways. So now if we tab into edit mode, we just have to rotate that negative 90 degrees and then tab back out. And now, if we go to our top view, it's almost working, but did I not rotate it properly? I guess I didn't. Let me undo that. Okay, so select everything, rotate it negative 90 degrees on the y-axis. There we go. So now, if we tab out, now you can see. Okay, so we got some tire tracks now. Now let's go ahead and rearrange this to where it should be. Well, I guess it's fairly well rearranged or arranged properly in the horizontal view, but now we go to the side view and get it actually under that tire. And it's a good idea to keep the origin points for each object lined up in the same spot. So I'm going to go Shift S, put the cursor to selected. So that's putting it to the selection of the curve itself. Now select the tracks and go Shift S and say selection to cursor, and it'll pop that so it has the same origin point as the tire treads there. Now we can see that they're a little too big, so let's tab into edit mode and let's scale those down a bit. Then we'll come out, and that's a little better, maybe a tiny bit smaller. So that's about right. So about like that. Okay, so now we have one tire set. Let's go ahead and copy each one of these over. So select the curve and the treads. Shift D, drag that over to the X side, about right there, looks like. Yes. Okay, then select both of those again, all four of them now. We're going to Shift D, duplicate those back. Go to our side view so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. Perspective view. Let's get those right under that tire there. There we go. Okay, so now we have some nice treads, or nice tracks coming in through there. They're not going to be exactly the same like they are now, because as we select the curve, this is the front tires. They're going to be lined up about like that at this point, and then the rear tire is going to be the same thing. So let's actually drag those back over here, and then maybe grab this one, drag this one over here. So we're going to have a little bit of overlap here and there. So if we go to our front view, we can see that, well, that didn't only move it on the axis we wanted it to, so we got to move that back up. Let's just select everything, A, scale it on the Z-axis 0%, and we'll drag that back up there to the flat angle there. And then this guy here, select everything, SZ0, flatten that back up, move it back up. Okay, so there we go. So now we got our tire tracks. Okay, so that looks alright. Let's go ahead and apply this all to one object. So I'm going to select each one of these tracks, and I'm going to apply the array, then apply the curve. Same thing. Apply, 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 and apply. Now I'm going to merge them all together so it's one big shape. So I'm going to shift select each one there and go Control J. Now it's all, well, now I can get rid of all these curves. So that's what I said at the beginning. It's not really that important that we name those curves because I just ended up not even using it. So, but the track's all one object now. So now we can use this to control some particles that we're going to duplicate some objects instead of like hair or fur or whatever, or even like a sparks or particles. We're actually going to do objects. So we need to create a few clumps of mud that we can duplicate across the whole track there. So I'm going to create a new icosphere, and then I'll jump into sculpt mode, grab my grab tool right over here, and we can just click and drag this icosphere until it kind of resembles just a flick of mud, as it were. Okay, not too bad. Let's go back to object mode. We're going to duplicate this. Let's create 4 different ones, 4 different shapes. I'm going to tab in edit mode this time. I'm just going to scale it flatter. We'll go into top view, and I'm just going to grab some points and just move them around using the proportional editing. So I'll move that, and then I really need to turn up the influence. It looks like, oh, I thought I turned it on. There we go. Turn up the influence so it controls quite a bit more. So we'll just gonna get this kind of just be a flattened out part. then maybe make it a little bigger. Okay, so let's grab that first one again, duplicate them, and do the same thing. Just maybe make this one a little taller, different shape. Okay, and while I'm at it, let me go ahead and add the subdivision surface to that, and just set it to render 1, and just do that on all 3 of these. Just render 1 and render 1. Okay, now we need to turn it the smoothing to be, or the shading to be the shading to be smooth shaded. Expand this out, you can see it a little better. Smooth shaded. Okay, so let's do one more shape. Duplicate that first one. Tab into edit mode. Let's make it a little taller. Maybe a little bit bigger around. And let's just change the overall shape of it. Okay, so we got us some clumps of mud now. What I would like to do before I apply those to the particles that we're going to set up is I want to go ahead and create a material for them. So we'll go to our Materials tab, create a new one, and we'll just call this one Mud. And Diffuse BSDF, let's go ahead and give it, well, I want to make it kind of like we did on the Jeep body, make it a little bit shiny, because it's still a little bit wet coming in off the road. If it's going to leave tracks like that, it's going to be a little wet. So let's go ahead and make it a little, the color of the diffuse to be a nice tannish brown, almost like dried mud, about like so. And then I want to come over here into our outliner, or our node editor, and I'm going to add another shader. This one's going to be a mix. Just go ahead and drop that in there. Automatically connects it. And then add one more shader. This one will be glossy. And go ahead and drag that down. Okay, so if we turn on preview, we can kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like. It's too shiny right now. Draw it all the way up. Way too shiny. So let's swap these inputs here. The glossy be on top, the diffuse be on bottom, because remember, the higher the number, it's going to match. You can basically turn it around clockwise and kind of get an idea. If it goes towards 0, it's going to be the top number. If it goes towards 1, it's going to be the bottom number. So 1.0 is 100% diffuse, so I'm going to try to set that 0.95 just like we did on the Jeep. Just give it a little bit of a sheen. Maybe even give that a little bit of color. Right now, the color here, it controls what color the sheen is. Right now it's white, so I want to make a tiny bit of a brownish tint to it. And there we go. That'll work. Okay, so now just got to apply this material to all the rest of those guys. And scroll down here, mud, good. And then mud and mud. Okay, so now what I want to do is select all of these mud clumps, and I'm going to hit Control G, add them to a group, and then I'm going to name the group Mud Clumps. I guess I have my caps lock on, but that's no big deal. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and move those to this layer here, and we'll turn that off for now, or turn this layer on, so it's the only thing on. And I guess I have one of those tires. Yeah, let's go ahead and move that tire back to that first layer. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to grab these tracks that we painstakingly made, go to our Particles tab, and go ahead and hit the plus sign, create a new particle system. Let's just go ahead and call this one Muddy Tracks. And the type is going to be hair, but we're not going to use it as hair. We're going to use it as object duplication. But right now it's pointing down, so I want to tab into edit mode of the tracks and go Control N and flip the normals to where they go to the inside instead. Inside being the top. Okay, so good to go. Scroll down to, where is it at? Under render, yeah, object right there, under the render tab. And we're going to say, actually it's not going to be object, it's going to be group. So we're going to choose that group that we just made, group mud clumps. There we go. You can see it kind of turned them on their side too. Not sure why it turned them on the side like that, just like it did on the tracks, but we can select each one of these in edit mode, rotate it negative 90 degrees on the y-axis. There we go. Do the same thing here, rotate 90, negative y, good. Select this one, select everything, rotate negative 90 y. There we go. And last but not least, this guy, rotate negative 90 y-axis. There we go. Okay, so now everything, well, it looks like it didn't rotate it the correct way. Let's see. Trying to figure out which direction it needs to rotate then, if that didn't do it. I guess on the z-axis, that's odd. Rotate it 90 degrees on the z-axis. Negative. Okay, well, rotate negative 90 z this time. Alright, so that'll get them. Okay. So, okay, yeah. Alright, so now everything's rotated nice. They're a little too big. I'm going to turn that layer off so we don't have those big clumps staring us in the face. But now we can come in here and start modifying the actual tracks, the actual clump settings. So right now the random size is 0. I'm going to bump that up. Maybe, let's do it all the way to 1. And then we could control the size of the clumps right here, but I want to do that up here. If I click the Advanced tab, it'll give us some more options to play with. Come down here to Velocity, and we're going to set this normal to a lot lower, say 0.25. You can see that really changed the size of those. Maybe even smaller, maybe 0.15. And that should work. Now, one thing I want to do is go ahead and turn off the, when you render, we don't want to see those the actual mesh of the tire tracks. I'm going to turn the emitter off, and we're only going to see those mud clumps. So we're not seeing that many right now. I want to scroll all the way back up here to emission. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and save this while we're at it. I was doing this same tutorial earlier, and Blender crashed on me for no reason at all. So go ahead and save this at this point. Now I'm going to set this emission number. Right now it's set to 1,000. I'm going to bump that up to, let's say, 5,000. Okay, so it gives us quite a bit more clumps there to play with. And also I'm going to say emit from, let's go vertices instead of faces, or maybe volume. Yeah, let's do volume. Okay, so now come down here and we can play with the velocity, randomness of that as well. And that's going to make things bigger, so let's go ahead and zero that back out. Maybe make the normals 0.1 just to make them a little smaller. And then we'll turn on rotation, expand that out, and we want to randomize that as well, all the way to 1. Didn't really change anything, but if we change the phase, you can see a little bit of difference there. So that'll help our variety of the types of mud clumps that we see. Okay, so let's change the size here under physics. We can bump that down a little bit as well. Just play with that. Okay, and then I think that's good to go. I'm still not seeing really as many mud clumps as I would like to see. I'm going to go ahead and bump this up to 10,000. And maybe that'll look a little bit better. Okay, so let's look through our camera. And I'm going to go ahead and save again. And we're going to unhide the background. So if we go to rendered viewport, it'll give us a nice preview of what the tracks could look like once we render it. Okay, so nice muddy tracks coming in. Those particles really look nice and random, like you just drove out of a mud puddle somewhere. So yeah, so that's good to go. I think that's going to be it on this tutorial set. We'll go ahead and do a nice final render here. Maybe let me change my background, the floor color, instead of black or brown. Let's give it kind of just an olive drab itself, maybe a little bit more gray. Maybe about like that. A little darker. Okay, so I'll do a nice quick render of this. Go ahead and save that out. And we'll render it. And I'll pause recording now so you can go ahead and see this after it's done rendering instead of having to wait the usual 2.5 minutes. So stand by. Okay, real quick, I'm seeing that the mud looks like it's up above the surface of the ground plane a little bit too much. So I'm going to go ahead and escape out of the render there. And let's go ahead and move that down just a bit. Let's go back to solid view so we can see a little bit better. Let's go to our side view, and we'll zoom in here, and we can see the plane. Is that the tire tracks? Yeah, that's a train. The tire tracks. I'm going to go ahead and rename that to tire tracks. Okay, and we can see, go to our side view, that is actually above the surface of the ground a little bit. So I'm going to move that down Let's go to our wireframe views. We can see a little bit better. Go ahead and move that down. And let's see, what's the ground plane? Is that... That's that one. Where is it at? The floor. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so the floor is that line there. So if I grab the tire tracks, move those down a little closer to the floor. There we go. We'll have some of the mud going actually through the ground plane, but that'll help things. I mean, it'll help flatten it out on the bottom and make it look like it's flat on the ground. So that's that. So we'll go ahead and save that. And again, I'll go ahead and render and pause recording, and hopefully this time it'll look nice and pretty once we get done completely. So stand by and we'll come back with the final render. Okay, there's our final rendered version of the Jeep. Got the nice mud tracks. This one looks like it's coming up a little bit too much, but we can go ahead and fix that. If you like, you can. The tutorial's pretty well over with. A couple more things I would like to go over right before we call it completely done. Tire tracks. We'll have to select all that SZ0 just to flatten them out completely there in edit mode, and then that'll recalculate the actual mud clumps. So we can move that down so it's exactly on that line. And I'm noticing here that the Jeep is hovering above the ground plane a little bit, so we'll just move everything up there. Good to go. Okay, so what I was going to say, rather than use a sun lamp where everything's lit perfectly in one direction, I'm going to go ahead and move that over onto a different layer just to get it out of the way. And I'm going to add some kind of like a studio light setup. I'm going to add a Shift A and add a mesh plane. And I'm going to give this one an emission material. Emission. There we go. And it's going to be new. Come down here. And set the diffuse BSODF to emission. Where it is? There it is. Okay. Go and set that up. And we're going to set that, the strength, I'm going to bump that to, say, 10. Okay. And I'm going to move this over here. And this is basically like when you go into a photographer studio, if you've ever been in one or seen one in the movies or TV shows or whatever, they basically have these light boxes that the light for the photographs comes out of. So we'll set this up, and this will be basically our light box. So if we go into rendered preview, for some reason things have slowed down for some reason now. But if we rotate our scene around here, you can see that that light box is now acting as a light, kind of throwing shadows. And if I turn the world settings to be a little darker, you can see the effect of that light a little bit more. So we'll select that. If you make it bigger, let's select the actual correct one. Let's select that. Let's go ahead and rename it to light box. Okay, and make it a little bigger. It'll put out more light, like so. Oops, select the wrong one. Where'd it go? Light box. It's not arranged alphabetically. It looks like light box. There it is. Okay, I guess it is. No, it's speaker. I don't know. Anyways, select the light box. Scale that down just a bit. Don't need it that big. And we'll come over to our top view. And let's Shift D, duplicate it to the other side. And maybe rotate it 180 degrees so it's facing the other way. Front view. Rotate it to where it's angled towards the Jeep. Maybe make it a little smaller. Okay, so now if we look through our camera, we definitely want to move this first light box out of the way. I'm going to hit End to move the properties thing out of the way, properties panel. And just move this on the x-axis until it's out of the camera's view. Okay, so that'll give us a nice bit more variation in the floor, in the infinite plane that we made. So it's lit up pretty nicely here on the right here in front of us, and then the further it goes back, it starts to fade out. So I think this should give us a pretty nice render. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now we'll do the final render, hopefully. So stand by, and we'll come back shortly. Okay, and there you can see this took a little less than 3 minutes. I guess the the lighting from the light boxes makes the scene render a little bit different. But yeah, I think the tracks look pretty nice on there, and the ground plane looks pretty nice. The bumps and everything all looks pretty good. So hope you had a good time on this Jeep tutorial series. I've always wanted to make one. I used to have a Jeep, like I probably mentioned in the first couple of parts, but I always wanted to model one, but I never really got around to doing it. So do it with you guys, and had a lot of fun doing it. So hope you enjoyed yourselves, and I hope you have some pretty nice vehicles to look at. Maybe not necessarily a Jeep, but some other kind of vehicle you might have been working on. But yeah, so thanks for watching this series, and I'll catch you next time.